Hello there my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another video. Guys, I think I might have a few problems getting through the video this week because this was hilarious to me. Guys, Natalie's gone rogue. I don't just mean slightly rogue, she's gone all the way rogue. But she has had an awful lot of help from mother-in-law Trish. Yes, that's right, it's Mike and Natalie from 90 Day Fiance. So for any of you who are unfamiliar with this story, Mike and Natalie are newlyweds on the TLC show 90 Day Fiance, and they've had somewhat of an on-again, off-again relationship, and this is their very first Thanksgiving together. As you can see from the title of the video, things didn't go exactly to plan. Mike's wife Natalie claims that mother-in-law Trish called her a hooker whilst they were in the kitchen cooking the Thanksgiving turkey. Oh, what a lovely day that sounds like. So here we go, I'm going to break everything down for you. Guys, before we start, a massive thank you to everyone that's subscribed to me. I'm closing in on 40,000 subscribers. Honestly, I can barely believe it, so thank you so much for all of your support. But if you've yet to do so, please consider subscribing. It's fun over here. And also you can follow me on Twitter at Ebird Online. And so without further ado, I give you Mike, his mama and his hooker. I still can't get over it, guys. I can't wait to get into this. So today when we first meet everybody, they're outside chopping wood and there's miserable faces all round. And last week Natalie was peed off with Trish for the following reasons. 1. Trish repeatedly asked her to be an interpreter or a translator. Something which, incidentally, according to other translators from my subscribers, Natalie is nowhere near qualified to do. You have to have at least 3 or 4 languages, and you have to have a much more in-depth knowledge of language than Natalie has of English, which doesn't surprise me. And as we pointed out last week, she hasn't even got a green card yet, so it's a moot point. Reason two is that Trish insinuates all the time that Natalie doesn't do anything around the house and refuses to do housework. We'll talk about the housework later. And the third reason is that Trish poo-poos Natalie's ideas of being an actress and a model. The fourth reason was because they took her to the butcher's for Thanksgiving meat. And it's well known that Natalie's a vegetarian. It's well known that Natalie's a pescatarian. She doesn't count fish. And the fifth reason is quite simply Trish's existence on planet Earth. So as I said, yet again, they're stacking wood. Oh my god, when does it ever end? Chopping and stacking wood. Why all the wood and why the obsession? Both Trish and Mike bollock on about wood ad nauseum. And Natalie's as bored as hell with all this wood chopping and she doesn't care who knows it. She takes a big piece of wood and she starts working out with it. Kind of 1980s Jane Fonda style. It's very many years since I've seen anything like this. And she says, I have to work out. I have to maintain. You have to maintain what, Natalie? Resting bitch face. Don't worry, you're doing it just fine. And she's obviously doing this whole faux workout to piss off Mike's mum, and she's managing to do it. And if I needed any backup that I'm right on this issue, I get it when Natalie talks to production. Trish is just trying to look for faults in me. Oh Natalie, you can see your faults from bloody space. And then she said, I don't want to stay here and continue being insulted. And Trish is standing on top of a truck full of logs and she seems to be throwing them to the ground. And she said, oh God, who said this was my job? And Natalie said, well, who normally does it if it's not your job? And Trish said, well, I do usually do it, although I don't do it all at once. And then Natalie returns serve with, I'm so happy that I'm handy for you. I thought you wanted me to be an interpreter, but it seems now you want me to be a wood carrier. She's so cheeky, I can't believe her. The whole time this is happening, Mike's just in the corner, stacking up piles of wood. But I've got to say in Trish's defence, it must be hard work trying to chop all of that wood, cook Thanksgiving dinner and fuck Natalie up. Oof, there's just not enough hours in the day. And so after they finish bollocking about with the wood, they go inside to cook Thanksgiving dinner. So they're busy cooking in the kitchen and taking passive-aggressive and aggressive-aggressive jabs at each other. And Natalie's cooking her soup called borscht, and in the soup is celery. Mike's mum couldn't find celery, so instead she bought parsnip. What? Does celery taste like parsnip? Anybody? Anybody? Maybe it does in America. It certainly doesn't in England. And Natalie's face shows that she's extremely unimpressed. And so as they're all cooking in the kitchen, Mike comes up behind Natalie and he tries to grab her. And Natalie said, "Michael, get out of the kitchen. There's too many people here. Don't touch my ass." And honestly, Mike's mum is standing like 1 metre away. And she said, "Calm down, Natalie." But I'm with Natalie on this one. Don't come and try and sexually touch me whilst your mother is standing there. That's embarrassing. Not to mention irritating. And given it's Mike, not to mention disgusting. Mike tells production she looked gorgeous in that apron, cutting carrots. Boom chicka wow wow. Mike, what was that? Oh Lord, there's just not enough freaking sky for me to roll my eyes at. But it's what happens next, which I believe is going to turn into one of the greatest mysteries of 90 Day Fiance. Whilst there were no cameras around, and also no sound, and also no other human beings, Natalie claimed to Mike that Trish called her a hooker, and he said she didn't, and she said she did. Now I've got a million theories as to how this potentially went down, and I'm going to give you 3 or 4 of them at the end of the video. But to me this kind of draws a line in the sand. If Trish did say it, Trish, you're all the way bang out of order. It's Thanksgiving. If she didn't say it, what a scandalous and disgusting lie to tell about somebody. Either way, this storyline is set to be explosive. And Mike said, "I don't think that she would have said that, but you should ask her." But things are set to become worse still. When Trish got back into the kitchen, she asked Natalie quite dismissively to rinse a cup out for her. Natalie rinsed it and gave it back to her. Trish then rolled her eyes and said, "I didn't want it back, I just wanted you to rinse it for me." But what happened next was simply legendary. It's right up there with "Mike, you're low class." It's right up there with throwing the ring away. It's right up there with "Don't you dare talk about my ex-husband." And then Natalie just started laughing maniacally. And through her laughter, Natalie then said, "This is going to be a great Thanksgiving for me." She's unbelievable, guys. I can't believe her. I literally can't believe her. She's standing in Trisha's kitchen, laughing sarcastically in Trisha's face. Next level. Natalie helpfully explained to production, "I don't have to prove anything to Trish. That's why I laughed." Oh, Natalie, are you sure you didn't laugh just to wind Trish up? I think you did. Natalie's gone rogue. Natalie's behaviour is fully 100% rogue. So what does Mike do, I hear you ask? Mike does what he does best. He stands there and pretends it's not happening. He doesn't take either one of them to the side and say, "Let's get this sorted out. Let's all talk." He just pretends it doesn't exist. So next up, it's the Thanksgiving dinner from hell. And it seems they've got a guest. His name's Ron. According to Trish, it's her roommate. And he looks like a porn star from the 1970s, who's down on his luck. I can't quite decide if this is actually Trish's roommate or if Trish is secretly shagging this guy. Either could be true. There are no definitive signs, but one thing's for sure, Trish has given him the down low on Natalie, because straight away he starts trying to butter her up. He's telling her that her borscht soup is lovely. Nobody else makes a sound. Natalie's even making excuses for the soup herself. She's saying it should be hot. Natalie, it takes nothing to heat up soup, literally nothing. It takes 30 seconds in a microwave. Guys, I always know that when people make excuses for their food, it ain't all that. It's not up to par. But when I look around the rest of the food, I'm kind of underwhelmed as well. The turkey looks as if Trish just showed it the oven and said, "Look what you could have had if you'd have behaved before Thanksgiving." It's giving me salmonella tease. Ron attempts once more to make small talk. He asks her and Mike how long they've been married. They tell him 6 months. And he says, "Well, it must make things so easy for you then. Because with COVID, everyone's been stuck indoors, but it's going to be okay for newlyweds." Now it's Trish's turn to laugh, and she gave a deep belly laugh. And she said, "How are you guys enjoying that? Your one-to-one time?" And she gave a really awful conspiratorial laugh. And it would seem that all 3 of these guys are in on the joke. But then Mike said, "Well, we've been locked up, so it's been quite hard." And Mike tells production, "This atmosphere is absolutely awful. I wish that Natalie would just pull my mum aside and ask her what she said." Mike, that's for you to do. You're Natalie's wife and your mum's son. That is your position. These two ladies obviously can't get on together, in part because you've been shit-stirring as well and bad-mouthing Natalie. And Mike said there's no point in spoiling the rest of the night. Mike, take it from me, it's spoiled. But back at the table, things are going to take a turn for the worse. And Trish says to Natalie, so have you had any more thoughts on having a baby? I really would like some grandchildren. But Trish is on a roll. She said you've got to think about this sooner or later. You're kind of getting a little bit old now. And then she gave another of her faux laugh. And Natalie fixed her with a long, intense Ukrainian stare. And she said, I don't want to have a baby just yet. I think that if you're in America, both of you have to work to have enough money. We need to educate the child properly. And I don't want to struggle for food. You must know this because you were a single mum. And it's not easy. And guys, when she said single mum, Trish's face virtually turned to stone. And then Natalie bollocks on a little bit more. And I would like to tell you what she said, but I was too busy watching the way that Mike held his fork. Look at this. He's holding his fork like Fred fucking Flintstone. Mike has literally no table manners. And then Natalie finished up by saying, I think I've been clear and honest why I want to do what I'm doing. Trish fixed her with a steely stare and she asked Natalie to pass a bowl of vegetables around the table. And Natalie looked Trish straight in the face and she started laughing at her again with the same crazy manic laugh. Natalie, you're just too much. You really are too much. I'm embarrassed watching it. Are you not embarrassed doing it? And then finally, Trish asked Natalie, are you full? And Natalie said, yeah, I am. No, thank you for my lovely Thanksgiving dinner or anything of that nature. Just, yeah, I am. Like a sulking teenager. Guys, that's where we leave things for this week. So much to unpack. So guys, here's what I make from this week's action. It was a masterclass in passive-aggressive behaviour. And from all three protagonists. Firstly, we have the maniacal and faintly ridiculous laughing. I know Natalie started it, but Trish was hot on her heels. And whilst it was funny and slightly uncomfortable to watch, I can't imagine having to actually real time be in that environment. Why did Mike put up with it? Why didn't he say, Natalie, stop? Mum, stop? And I think it's because Mike is so weak. Why do I think Mike's so weak? Because he's a chip off the old block. And you'll remember my earlier criticism of Mike's mum when she first promoted the wedding and forced it along and then behind Natalie's back tried to get it stopped not once but twice. She never actually says anything negative out loud. And I believe that's exactly where Mike has picked up his passive-aggressive behaviour. And the second passive-aggressive thing that Trish has done is her continual questioning of Natalie about personal matters. She rattled on and on about Natalie being an interpreter. Trish, it's something which you know nothing about, so why are you dead set on her doing it? And all of the time while she's doing this, she's passing judgment as if to say, you're not working, you're relying on my son Mike, and it's not fair. And again at Thanksgiving dinner, when she decided to bring up the conversation of having children. She knows they're not financially ready at the moment, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. Also, there have been loads of other opportunities when you've been on your own to have this conversation. You wait until you get random Ron, the roommate, at the table and then decide to ask personal questions. Come the F off, Trish. You know exactly what you were doing. And then also there are the willful misunderstandings. Natalie pretends not to understand what Trish is saying. She always looks at her blankly before she complies with any request, however simplistic it might be. And she's also overly direct with Trish and very cold, very matter of fact. But Trish also does the same. Did Natalie just run out of the butchers? Trish, you know she did. And also again when Trish said, well, you've got to forget about ideas like Hollywood. She never said Hollywood, but you're being willfully ignorant. Oh, I thought when you said TV, you must have meant the movies in Hollywood. No, she didn't, Trish. She's just writing a screenplay at the moment. She's going to be in the lead role. She's planning upon calling it Murder She Made Me Do. And then finally there's Mike. Whilst acknowledging to production that there is a problem between Natalie and his mum, he won't acknowledge it when both of them are in the room. And the first time he acknowledges it at all on this trip is when Natalie actually says, your mum called me a hooker. If he could possibly get away with pretending it's not all happening, he would. Guys, it's just a passive-aggressive nightmare. So let me know what you think. Who do you think is at fault for the complete breakdown of this Thanksgiving dinner? I know people think I'm harsh, but overall, I kind of think it's Trish. I think when Natalie came, it was Trish's express plan to push Natalie's buttons. And even when Natalie said, "I like your flannel shirt," Trish said, "Really? What do you like about it?" She came out of the trap wanting to cause problems at Thanksgiving. But maybe, just maybe, it could be Mike's fault. Mike has daily 4 a.m. telephone conferences with his mum, and there's no doubt in my mind that he chats shit about Natalie in every single one. Maybe he's to blame for all of this trouble. And there's also Trish's passive-aggressive insinuations that Natalie doesn't do anything all day. And obviously we heard Mike say she doesn't do any housework. Mike, yes she does. When she came to your house, it was a pretty grotty bachelor pad, and you know it was. So unless Uncle Bo's popping round every afternoon to do a bit of housekeeping, then Natalie's cleaned your place because it looks spotless. I can even see she's done the windows. Mike, stop with the lies. We all have eyes and we can all see. It's you who's dirty, not Natalie. But finally, what do we think about the hooker comment? So the options are either that she said something completely different and Natalie heard it as hooker, but I doubt it because I think Natalie would have stopped her with a steely stare and said, "What did you say?" So I doubt that. Guys, I don't know why I think this, but I have every reason to believe that Natalie has made this up because she's looking for an excuse to ditch Thanksgiving evening. She just wants to be able to go home. And Trish asking too many personal questions or laughing in Natalie's face or vice versa isn't enough for Natalie to say, "I'm going home." But a secret, "You're a hooker" allegation certainly is. But the other possibility which I've considered is that Trish said something to Natalie along the lines of, "Well, if you don't work and you're just taking money from Mike, you may as well just be a hooker." Which, if she did say that, again, is completely out of order. But most of all, completely laughable, because Mike has no money whatsoever. He didn't even have enough money to buy himself a tomahawk steak at Thanksgiving. As Natalie pointed out, if she was here for money, she wouldn't be anywhere near Mike. And so that's everything. Let me know what you think in comments down below. Did Trish call her a hooker, or was it all some sort of mistake? Or is Natalie making up porky pies? I'm going to discuss this in a lot more detail next week when we find out exactly what was said before the door is slammed and Natalie hotfoots it back to Seattle. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my videos. You've been listening to Ebird Online and I bid you good day.